Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. Don't be disturbed by the non-jumping dial. That's deliberate. I wanted to show it to you. We'll get there. This is a 2017 limited edition of 68 pieces in 6N red gold from FP Journe. It's the Vagabondage III, the third in the series of tonneau-cased jumping time watches. It is also the most technically sophisticated and undoubtedly the most animated. It is an easy watch to wear. 37.5 millimeters across, not counting the crown. 8.1 millimeters thickened from lug to lug. It is only 45.3 lug to lug. 19 millimeters the spacing between the lugs. And then on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, it wears beautifully. The strap is stiff. It has not been broken in. I'm pulling it fairly tight. Rest assured, this watch will wear on a wrist as small as 14, maybe even 13.5 centimeters circumference. The Vagabondage, like the Elegant, wears beautifully on a smaller wrist, and it is flat, easily sliding underneath the cuff. The strap is high grade, large rectangular symmetrical scale alligator leather, one of the smallest cuts of the hide and thus the rarest and most prized. It's what you see on the best watches. Journe straps, also like many of the best these days from other brands, using small round scale alligator leather on the bottom for a longer wearing, more durable strap. More expensive, but this watch is worth it. We have here a folded edge and a monotone stitch, and I would say this is a semi-gloss black. Taking a look, we have pull-tab spring bars, so you can pop the strap off the case without tools. And then a feature that is not universal on Journe watches, which is a folding clasp. Most Journe watches, even very expensive ones, come with pin buckles. That is nice to see. The watch is fascinating because it's monoblock. If you look, there's no separate bezel and case structure. Everything loads through the removable back that includes the dial and the movement. So you have this incredibly seamless, all-of-a-piece aesthetic from the top. No branding on this distinctive Journe crown. We're used to that. Less familiar is the total absence of text, branding, or boasting on the dial side. And that is an artifact of the original Vagabondage, which was a watch made with a movement Journe originally designed for Cartier. It was never used by Cartier in the CPCP collection. Journe bought back the movement, and for an anniversary auction by Antiquorum, he was asked to create a special watch specifically for the auction. He didn't have enough time or resources to create an all-new movement, so he used the Cartier caliber that he'd bought back, but it didn't meet his FP Journe standards for timing precision, so he didn't put his name or brand on the front of the original Vagabondage. While the quality of timekeeping improved dramatically to Journe standards on the second and third editions, he made it a tradition to simply keep the Vagabondage unbranded, and thus we have no insight into what it is until you turn it over. Then you can see reference V3, FP Journe. He invented and made it Vagabondage, or general ambling about is what the word means in French. Now on the dial side, you can see we have two different finishes, satination and polish, a completely flat sapphire, which is not something we often see. We have patches of white gold, and then framed by rose gold brackets, power reserve indicator, 30 hours power reserve manual wind, jumping hour, and then digital jumping seconds with a scrolling minutes hand. You can also see that there's a smoked sapphire over the center, and through that smoked sapphire, you can see all the works admirably decorated on the dial side, including the keyless works, which is something you do not often get to see on a Journe watch. You may be wondering, why is it struggling along? Well, when the power reserve indicator is in the red part of the scale, the remontoire constant force device, which ensures excellent timekeeping, but also is the underlying mechanism for the jumping seconds, the remontoire is deactivated. Now, when I wind, you'll see the little power reserve indicator will sweep into the white arc, and now the remontoire, the constant force device, is back online, and I have digital jumping seconds. So you just want to wind it at the same time every day to avoid getting into that scrolling time zone. The remontoire is a device that sits between the mainspring barrel and the escapement. And as we've seen on the Chronomet Optimum and on the Astronomic and on many generations of his Tourbillon Souverain, the way to achieve isochronous operation as the mainspring energy fluctuates, it is to use a buffer, a spring between the barrel and the escapement. The barrel loads up that linear spring every second, and then that spring's energy is transmitted to the escapement. So that little spring is actually powering the escapement rather than the barrel powering the escapement directly. Big balance, slow beating at 3 hertz, but with a lot of inertia. It's over 10 millimeters in diameter, so it is both a large and a massive balance. Free sprung and hand adjusted. You can see the dial is rose gold and the movement is rose gold. Journe is fully integrated, making dials, movements, and cases. So with triple gold, though this is not a big watch, it is a weighty watch. 30 meters water resistant and dress watch standard. You can see it says Vagabondage III on the movement. And yes, 18 karat rose gold bridges and plates. You can see that the movement is a hand and glove fit for this watch, as the caliber 1514 was created expressly and exclusively for this model. You will not find it in any other Journe watch. It is 29.3 millimeters by 28.2 in terms of measurements, and that is only going to fit this case. You can also see that architecturally, Journe actually struts his stuff a bit more than he does with decoration. His decoration is never too fine, competent but not too fine. Architecturally, though, he always creates interesting movements where the size, the shape, the relative position and proportioning of the piece, they always look like the architecture of a built landscape that was planned all at once. It's very orderly, handsome. All of this has a very cool sort of feng shui to it. Everything seems as though it was designed coherently and together to exist in harmony, and it does. You can see we have polished bevels. Journe bevels have gotten better over the years. We have stripes on the bridges. We have engine turning, quite tight in fact, on the base plate, and then all screw heads are polished. We have satination on the wheels as well as the barrel cover, and you can see the underlying mechanism for the remontoir is actually quite nicely decorated. You can see it in action right here. A great looking movement. And again, 30 meters water resistant. It is sporty, but don't go swimming with it. It's not that kind of watch. Some people will wonder, just because of the aesthetics of the dial, is it loomed? No, it is not loomed, so let's just be clear about that. But it is one of the coolest watches you can possibly buy. And it's one of the few watches in the esoteric realm of autologerie where you could just show it to a friend who's not into watches, and he immediately understands he's looking at something special without it being verbalized. And that, well, that's worth more than 1,000 words. So reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.